Members of the committee, my name is Arthur Singer. I'm an educational psychologist and marriage family therapist. I was the project coordinator for an early mental health program in the Folsom Cordova District in Sacramento County for about 25 years. I'm presently a board member on Time for Kids, one of the sponsoring organizations. I'd like to make three very brief points. I understand brief is the key word today. First, there is a significant unmet need in terms of the mental health for children in the state. There are thousands of children with mild mental health issues who are being untreated. This significantly becomes a bigger problem later in life, becomes more expensive in the future. These children are at risk for social and for school failure. Children who are socially disconnected, aggressive, they may be inattentive, they may experience traumatic life events, or bullies or the victim of bullying. These needs exist in communities with all socioeconomic levels and ethnicities. The second point I'd like to make is the Emmy services that Ben referred to provide a research-based, cost-effective, highly replicable program that provides significant success. The almost 80% success rate that's been quoted by the outside evaluators documents that children improve their social relationships and improve their social adjustment. The Emmy grants that were provided provided very well-spent seed money for districts to start up these early mental health programs, and I'd like to thank you and your predecessors for providing those grants, and I think it's unfortunate that those grants have been discontinued. However, now with the local control funding option that schools have, districts are much more interested in providing mental health services to children. They want to offer these services that are both districts who had previously been funded but whose programs have been defunded, as well as districts that are interested in starting new programs. However, what they need is support and technical assistance in order to do that. One of the things that the previous Emmy grants provided was that technical support so that programs were met the replicable standards that the Emmy grants were based on, as well as providing the technical assistance in program administration. AB 1133 provides that support. I would encourage you to support that bill at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Frost, representing the California Association of School Psychologists. We echo the comments that have already been made. We're in support of the bill.
Thank you. Any other individuals in support, if they could just state their name, their affiliation, and their position on the bill?
Okay. Lydia Bourne, representing American Academy of Pediatrics. I apologize, we were a little late getting our letter in, but we are in strong support.
Kevin Tromer on behalf of the Compton Unified School District, in strong support. Thank you.
Danielle Millay, California Alliance of Child and Family Services, in support.
Jasmine Gordon with the California Black Health Network, in support.
Stuart Thompson on behalf of the California Medical Association. Apologies to the committee. Our position is not reflected in the analysis, but we're in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any witnesses in opposition? Seeing no opposition, and any members of the committee wish to comment?
Move the bill.
Second.
Seeing no comments, the bill has been moved and seconded. Mr. Thurman wishes to comment. Go ahead, Mr. Thurman.
Thank you. Simply a thank you to the author. We're also interested in the issue of school-based mental health, and we've introduced a bill that would also establish a pilot, but not necessarily in any specific grade, throughout all K-12. And we look forward to working with you and moving the concept forward, because we've seen the benefits of early childhood mental health, and just want to thank you for bringing it, and we look forward to working closely with you. Thank you, sir.
Be happy to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is due pass and refer to the Committee on Health. The author may close.
Mr. Chair, this program is a relatively small investment to support a proven program with a high return. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Shajian. If you could, Secretary, please call the roll.
O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez? Aye. Chavez, aye. Kim? Kim, aye. McCarty? Santiago, Thurman, Thurman, I. Weber, Weber, I.
The motion passes 5-0. Mr. Dodd,
Thank you, Mr.
who's
Chair.
been waiting patiently, kind of.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. We have all been shaken by the... You ready?
It's file item number 6. Go ahead, Mr. Dodd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. We've all been shaken by the all too common tragedies at school campuses across our country. Following the recent shooting tragedies in Newtown, Connecticut, and Taft, California, we need to rethink safety procedures in schools. Lockdowns, a temporary confinement of students and staff to classrooms, offices, and other rooms during or following a disturbance have proven to be an effective tool used on school campuses to facilitate the safety of both students and staff during a violent situation. The door locks on many school classrooms where students and school staff gather can only be locked from the outside. The safety of students and staff may be jeopardized as the staff must enter hallways in an attempt to lock their doors during a lockdown. Updating doors to include the locks inside will eliminate the need for staff to exit their immediate facility during a disturbance. AB 677 would require K through 12 and higher education institutions to equip the doors of every classroom with locks that allow doors to be locked from the inside by January 1st, 2022. I recognize there would be costs associated with AB 677, and I'm happy to accept the suggested amendments on the bottom of page 2 to make this requirement contingent upon the passage of a statewide education bond passed by the voters after January 1st, 2016. Witnesses in support with me here today is Robert Chakanaka and others. Robert's the president of Local 6084, Santa Cruz Council of Classified Employees.
Thank you, committee chairman and members of the committee. I brought a demonstration lock because there's often been a lot of confusion. It's kind of interesting that people have no concept that our schools are not equipped with doors that you can lock from the inside. I think that you in your own homes would be shocked if you had to step outside your house to lock your door to be inside your house locked. And so I brought this demonstration lock. Are there any answers, any questions you might have on this situation? So it's basically the key is on both sides, and you can only enter with the key. You can unlock the door from the inside and lock it from the inside only. It's very simple. We put this in Santa Cruz City Schools about 15 years ago, and it's necessary. It's a necessary item. If you're a teacher and if you have children, you don't want your teacher stepping outside to lock the door if there's a lockdown or a potential threat on campus. It's really a no-brainer.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Kendra Harris with the California Federation of Teachers. We're pleased to sponsor this bill. Once again, we want to thank the Assembly member for authoring it for us. I mean, as you heard the Assembly member testify, and of course our witness, this is a simple issue. It's an easy fix, potentially can save thousands of lives. Yes, it's costly. That's why we're trying to tie it to a future bond if one passes. And so we hope that you can support this measure. You know, as Robert said, it wouldn't make sense for you to have to exit your house to secure your own door. So we hope that you can protect students, teachers alike and support this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further witnesses in support?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Mitch Seaman with the California Labor Federation, also in strong support.
Thank you. Seeing no other witnesses, any witnesses in opposition?
I guess they're not going to, just in case they have any.
Do you want to come up and do you want to sit up here? Or come on up. Mr. Dodd's a nice guy.
Good afternoon. Eric Bach with Los Angeles Unified School District. We have an opposed position. I just want to be perfectly clear. It's not about making sure that we're not protecting our students. I mean, that is our highest priority. It has always been associated with the cost. And with the amendments that we're hearing, we're very pleased that that's being addressed. It's one of the biggest concerns. We believe that the lock itself is a minor cost in terms of modernization. It's just the unintended associated costs with some of the retrofits to some of our older doors, the widths of our doors, the door frames. Any of those types of alterations trigger other costs that we're concerned about. But we think with the amended language, it goes a long way to address our concerns. So we're going to evaluate the bill once it's been in print, and hopefully we can rescind our opposition. So thank you.
Good afternoon, Patty Herrera, representing Riverside County Schools in the Corona Norco Unified School District. We also have an opposed position on the bill. However, we do appreciate staff's recommendation to tie the requirements to a future statewide bond for the reasons that Mr. Bakke mentioned. Based on our evaluation of the amendments when they're in print, we are prepared to remove our opposition. Thank you.
Enrique Roacho with the California Association of School Business Officials, and we also had an opposition on the bill, and we appreciate the amendments that are accepted by the author, and we'll likely be removing our opposition on the bill as well. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Nancy Chaitis Espinosa with the California School Boards Association. We also had an oppose unless amended on this bill, but we appreciate the amendments the author has agreed to take, and we'll be reevaluating our position once we see those in print.
Rebecca Curley on behalf of the County School Facilities Consortium. We also have an oppose unless amended position on the bill. We very much appreciate the author's willingness to work with us on our concerns. Our concerns are, like the previous speakers, very much related to costs. County offices of education do not have the authority to issue local bonds, and therefore we do not have many resources for our facilities projects. So we will review the amendments when they are in print and hope to remove our opposition.
Any further opposition? Seeing none, members of the committee wish to comment? Mr. Chavez, then Ms. Kim.
Yes, Mr. Dodd, since I sit on the State Allocation Board, what is their role going to be, assuming the bond pass? What's the process that this money would be provided to school districts?
You know, I think that probably will be shaken out in the bond language, but I'm not sure. Can you respond to that?
Just wondering if for all the counties that are concerned about the funding, what would be the process? Are they going to identify the needs? Because I think currently what was I reading? The Leroy F. Green School Facilities Act of '98 requires us to allocate to school districts any new programs for upgrading modernization. So I was wondering, how are we going to do this?
So the amendment that we took just speaks to a future school bond. It doesn't clearly stipulate how the bond monies would be spent. It just says, I believe it, and I haven't seen the actual language from committee yet, but I believe the language would say something like, if a bond is adopted in 2016, the monies could be utilized for this purpose, not clearly stipulating how the money would be doled out, but I imagine through the bond process, maybe a school would have to apply for the project and get bond monies to do the upgrades.
Well, I'm all concerned about school safety, so I'll be supporting this phase. But maybe before we bring it to the floor, we actually look at the process and talk to the State Allocation Board and how they do this, so we know how it's going to go forward. So, another one little funny thing is, I guess with that fancy little dork, if I was a impish little 8th grade, or which I was at one time, could I actually lock a teacher out?
Well. Let me speak to that.
That's okay.
I think the teacher's the only one with a master
Not this teacher. Only if they had command of the keys. It's not an inside automatic lock. It's an inside keyed lock, so it's double keyed.
Oh, that used to be one of the challenges, rip off their keys. But okay. I told you I was an 8th grader. We used to love that.
I'm still in 8th grade. Ms. Kim.
I think the issue was already addressed, but my initial concern was cost. Mm-hmm. But the student safety is far more important, and I'm glad to hear that you're tying this to future bond money. So with that, I'm a little more comfortable in supporting your bill. So thank you for bringing forward.
Thank you.
Ms. Weber.
I think you're also tying it to any modernization, I hope.
Correct.
Because I think, tying it to a bond is a wonderful idea if a bond passes. But all you need is one unfortunate incident
I agree.
in a state like this, And given the size of the state and all the stuff that happens, that would make that cost seem so insignificant if we had a tragedy. And I have some schools that do have those locks on those doors, and they've had few lockdowns at those schools where people from outside or whatever it may be, and it's been a friend of mine is vice principal at a school that has locks on the doors, and I know they've had in the last 3 or 4 years at least 3 or 4 lockdowns of the school because of not only what's happening on the campus but what happens in the community surrounding our campuses where you really need to lock that school down. And it's been a very effective tool to use. Every now and then I get a notice that my schools have had a lockdown. And so when you think about the potential that's there, I hope as a state we come to recognize the danger that could happen or the tragedies that could happen from something like this that looks like, it would be expensive to put in all of our schools. But one tragedy would obviously bring us all to our knees in terms of what folly there was as we looked at the numbers. So I hope that there's modernization there, and I hope there's support as our schools even get additional resources to do things, or they're doing modernizations themselves, that this becomes a part of it. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you, Dr. Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. As one who's been through many a lockdown, I can share with you that you do kind of feel somewhat vulnerable when you walk out that classroom to lock the door after you've been given notice. And I must also, just a question, do you think the principal's door has a lock from the inside? I'll bet it does.